In the Pits is sponsored by Hustletown Paintball. Hustletown is a brand by Jason Tinsley of Houston that is all about representing Houston paintball and highlighting its local talent. Head to hustletownpaintball.net to browse their selection of casual wear and use code PIT10 for 10% off of your order. In the Pits is partnered with Compete. Compete is a Texas-based brand by Jell Stewart of professional team AC Diesel that provides custom jerseys, pants, headbands, straps, tech shirts, and any other soft goods to help individuals and teams compete at the highest level. Support Texas Paintball and message Compete on Facebook or Instagram and mention In the Pits Podcast for 10% off your entire order. In the Pits is sponsored by FUAthletics, created with a purpose and focused on building a better you. We are a brand that matters in your workout, and every purchase gives back to cancer research. Go to thefuathletics.com and use code INTHEPITS25 for 25% off of your order. In the Pits is partnered with Get Dat Shot. Get Dat Shot now offers first-in-line photo and video editing, 20% off Get Dat Shot merch, and 20% off prints to all teams that wear the Get Dat Shot logo on their jersey. Message GetDat_shot on Facebook or Instagram to become a Get Dat Shot program team. In the Pits is partnered with Paintball Kumite. Paintball Kumite is a program designed by Colt Roberts of professional team San Antonio X Factor to take paintball players of all ages, experience levels, and skill groups and mold them into champions. The program breaks the game down into small, easy-to-learn sessions designed to help you master the fundamentals so that you can elevate your game. Newcomers to the program get a free 1-hour introductory class when mentioning In the Pits. To sign up for a class, message at Paintball Kumite on Instagram. Welcome everyone to episode 43 of In the Pits Paintball Podcast. This podcast is focused on everything that has to do with the paintball scene here in Texas, from professional players and teams to new divisional programs, local tournament series, field owners, Texas-based brands, even photographers and videographers. Every week we'll have a short and sweet episode with a new topic and a new special guest. I'm Christian Smith. I'm a player for the Texas Titans, and this episode we are going in the pits with Ben Challenger, player for Los Angeles Infamous. Ben, how are you doing this evening?
Doing great. Thanks for asking. Happy to be here.
Yeah, happy to have you on the show. You very recently had a gold medal added to your trophy case, so excited to talk about that. Excited to look forward to this next NXL event. Be a home field advantage for you.
Yeah, it would be cool to be playing an NXL in Texas and have Texas be my home state. So I'm looking forward to it. It'll be sick.
Oh, yeah, and this one's a major this time. It's not one of those minor events that they were doing the last couple of years.
Yeah. Definitely looking forward to it. I actually missed out on the last, minor that was at Giant. At the time, I was injured, so I just was watching a bunch of paintball that weekend. So I'm really stoked to finally be playing a Texas event and actually have it be my own home state event. So that's cool.
Yeah, I was injured for that one last year as well. I was going through some pretty severe back issues, but shame too because that layout looked interesting to say the least. I wonder if they're going to do something like that again this year.
I know, it's historic, dude. Like a mirror, like a true mirrored layout. It was pretty unique.
For sure. So let's get into it, Ben. So for those listening that maybe don't know so much about you personally, how long have you been involved in the Texas paintball scene specifically?
I moved to Texas in 2020, so going on to my third year.
Oh, gotcha. So not too long. So how about before then? How long you've been involved in tournament paintball as a whole?
I think my first tournament I was something like 11. I've been playing since I was 10. But I had like an entire paintball career in Canada, and we didn't have APPA, so I played like all the way up until like semi-pro, pro in Canada. So it's like a different level than the US. But and then over the last, I guess I started playing in the U.S. Competitively in 2011. So like 12 years in the in the PSP, MPPL, NXL scene.
Interesting. I didn't know that Canada had their own like separate league, separate system, completely away from APPA/PB leagues. Is it like kind of similar level, or what? How would you describe it as far as skill level goes?
Well, luckily they got with the times, and now I do believe that they use APPA for the OPL, which is I think like the main series up in Canada. Derek Welts runs that, does a great job. There's a, but prior to that, it was just the CXBL, which was the league that we would play in, and it was funny because like the top level was called like CXBL or Elite, and then there was MXL, which is like semi-pro, and then there was RXL, which is like D2, and then there's like, it was called like CX4, which was like pretty much like beginner, like getting people into it. But when I say like semi-pro, I mean like it was just the level below pro in Canada. It wasn't actually that high, right? Like I think like pro in Canada was probably like D2. But the thing that would happen is because it was pro, it would invite pro teams from the States to come up or pro players from the States to come up. And so that was where like, I don't know, ultimately I think that ended up kind of messing up Canadian paintball because the teams were just too good. Like at one point, like all of Aftershock came up and like we're playing against like my local friends. Like, so it's like pretty like, interesting things there. At one point, like Heat and Vicious were playing, and like, so basically the only chance you had at winning a pro tournament in Canada is if the majority of your roster was pro. But the actual like skill level of Canadian players was like in that level or in that division was like semi-pro D2.
Interesting.
Sorry,
yeah.
I know that's a convoluted answer. Sorry. Like,
no,
it's weird because there wasn't APPA, so it wasn't just like, oh, here's the points. It was like.
Right. It's a weird system. I mean, I was actually going to ask if you had like a lot of the Canadian pro players, like the Impact guys, frequent that event at all. But man, if you got Heat, Aftershock, like some of these huge team names driving up or flying up for that one, like, and then I'm just imagining them compete against teams like, I don't know, a D2 reference, like Shut Up, We're Trying, for example.
And everybody's shooting 15 balls a second. So, and on top of that, Canadian paintball was 2 25-minute halves. So you have a 50-minute match. Like, rosters had like 15 people like per side. And like, yeah, it was pretty intense.
And I remember there's no mercy rule back in those days, so I bet the scores got run up pretty good.
Yeah, and there was like, because like, there'd be like these teams that are pro and these teams that like shouldn't really even be in that division. And because there was no mercy rule, man, I remember watching a team get beat 22-0.
Oh man, those are some Russian Legion numbers.
Bro, the points were so fast and like people were merciless with like 15 BPS. Like if you got shot like 10 times, you got off easy. Like it was like, oh man, that guy was nice. You know what I mean? Because like a second, just one Mississippi, that guy's pink.
Oh yeah, I'm grateful that we definitely have a more structured system down here in Texas.
If you
anyway,
ever wanted to play 15 though, you should go to Australia because they're still doing it.
If I ever get out there, we'll see. I definitely want to do some traveling eventually. So, Ben, with all that said, like, playing in Canada and then eventually making your way to the US, what are some of the team names that you've played for over the years?
Man, okay, over the last, like, I'll say, like, I guess, like, 4 or 5 years, because, like, prior to that, it would just be, like, just really, really long laundry list. And, like, I almost, like, kind of, like, restarted my career at a certain point after going pro. So, Trade My Gun Outlaws, DMG, I played for Just Us for a little bit. And then after DMG, it was Diesel for 3 years, and now I'm playing with Infamous. But prior to that, it was like a whole bunch of different semi-pro teams, D2 teams, like a bunch of different team names in Canada because I had like a whole paintball career there. So yeah, I feel like just like highlighting that last little like chunk of my career is like more relevant to people. They'd be like, oh yeah, I remember DMG or,
Right. Yeah. I wanted to highlight some of the team names, especially like when I was trying to do some research, I saw like on your PB Leagues profile, you've been on several teams that seem to be based in a lot of different areas. So later on, as we get through the show, I definitely want to highlight like what that's like as far
Okay,
as
yeah,
having to travel to play.
that's fair. Like, yeah, like I played for the Jesters at one point. That was like one of my first teams that I played for in the U.S. I played out of CFP for a while for one of their divisional teams below Static, and then I played for a team called Rack City Clutch. Bunch of great players came out of there and are playing pro right now from that team. And then over on the West Coast in SoCal, I played for. Oh wait, in Florida, I also played for Miami Rage, but in SoCal, I played for LA Collision, and then in Northern California, I played for DMG. So that's kind of like the coasts, and then coming in. Did I ever? I played for Michigan 810 at one point. So there's like I guess a team from the Midwest as well. So almost every like major region of. Sorry, my notifications for Facebook are going off.
You're good.
Sorry. So yeah, almost every major region in the U.S. or maybe every major region for paintball in the U.S.
Yeah, it sounds like you definitely gotten some experience getting to travel, see like what all the different regions were like. One curious, and I'll ask you in a little bit, just like what you thought as far as like comparing the different regions. So, I mean, you had this big career in Canada, but what was it that got you into paintball in the first place?
It's actually kind of funny, and I think about this a lot because, like, it's been a gnarly, like, 17-year-old journey. But it was a satire about paintball called Blackballed, the Bobby Duke story. And this was a movie that me and my friends watched at, like, 10 years old, and it kind of went over our heads that, like, they're making fun of paintball. We were, like, kids, right? So we watched this, and we're like, this is kind of awesome. Like, we should go, like, play and, like, start our own team and stuff like that. And so then we went and we played. My friends were super into it, and I wasn't really like too into it at first, but I kind of just kept going because all my friends were really into it. And then the rabbit hole goes on. Like I just got more and more hooked, and then eventually we're playing tournaments. We're like 3-4 years in, and we rewatch it. And my friends and I realize they're totally making fun of paintball and tournament paintball, and my friends are like, yeah, I'm out. I'm done. And I was like, nope, I'm in too deep already. Got to go all the way. So here I am 17 years later because of the fucking stupid movie.
I'm looking at this movie right now. Let's see. The description on Amazon is caught cheating and banned for 10 years. Paintball's first superstar, Bobby Dukes, is back to prove himself on the field that made him famous. I love it.
Yeah. So in the satire, cheating's super taboo, and he did it in the finals and got caught, and then went on a 10-year hiatus and then came back to the game.
I love it. I'm gonna have to check this out. Something tells me it's not gonna be quite like BKIT, but
no, definitely not, dude.
Love it. All right, so
you get some good laughs, I think.
Sweet. I'll definitely add it. Might make a drinking game out of it. That'll be even better.
Yeah, way better.
Awesome. So this next question is brought to us by Hustletown Paintball. Head to hustletownpaintball.net and use code PIT10 for 10% off of your order. So throughout your 17 years of playing tournaments, and excuse me, what are some things that you've noticed that have changed in the paintball scene as a whole, and then also within the regions that you've spent a lot of time in, especially Texas? So either for better or for worse, what are some things that you've noticed have changed over time?
Man, when I started playing, just the formats over time have just changed a lot, right? When I started playing, there was sideline coaching and two halves to a game. The rate of fire was way higher. Now it's slower rate of fire, no sideline coaching, tighter matches. So there's less room for error. You have to be more accurate. You also have to be smarter and work together more than you used to, because I could just be some preteen in the snake and I had my coach yelling on the side, just straight up joysticking me for what I had to do. And now I'm okay, I have to actually think about it, right? I have to be okay, what's the kill count? Where's my widest body? What can I actually do, right? There's more thought process going on versus before, where it was I didn't even have to think. Somebody would just be yelling okay, pop up right now, shoot this guy right here. It's easy, And now it's okay, I have to be smart enough to know that when I get to the spot, as long as there's not paint here, I can look out and I might be able to shoot this guy, right? Like I got to know my shot progression. Like, yeah, I just feel like the skill level overall has gone up tremendously because of the way that the format's changed, right? Like when you shoot 15 balls a second, you can snap out and come back in, and like 9 paintballs will come out of your gun. Like it's crazy. But now, like if you're shooting 10, maybe 2 or 3 come out, right? And you got to make sure they're on point. So if you're not accurate, like there's just more of an emphasis on accuracy and overall, like I don't know, wherewithal to play. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I know as far as like the sideline coaching stuff, that's something that Nathan Roberts mentioned whenever he was on the show, was that a big part of AC Dallas's game as they were climbing up through D1 and then eventually like right before they made pro, was a big part of Nathan Roberts' game was just getting joystick by Greg Pauly on the sideline. And then as soon as they make pro, sideline coaching goes away. And he said that affected his game quite a lot, not only like as a new pro player, but also as one of the youngest, if not the youngest pro player at the time. So just seeing that, I know a lot of players had to adapt. And then on top of that, like going from 15 to 12 and then 12 to 10, 5, it's much more of like, it's much less of a game of just raw gunfighting. There's a lot more of a movement aspect, it seems like nowadays, and I don't know if that's just because of the fire rate or if it's also because of the bunker set. But it seems to be like there's more ways to win now versus just, hey, I'm gonna shoot 15 and then win my gunfight and then win the game off of that. It seems like there's totally more avenues.
In the past, I feel like it was like raw aggression, and like as the future has gone on, it's just like, oh, there's so much strategy. Like I mean, at least with X-Ball, right? It was like you just had to ram it down their throat, and like in modern paintball, I mean, shit, dude. Like I lost a game recently that was 1-0, an entire match, 1-0.
Yeah, that's not the first that's happened. I mean, that happened at Cup as well between X Factor and Houston Heat. Like it went the distance in regulation, and then like with less than a minute to go in overtime, they scored the point.
Bro, it's fucking lame. That's like watching a like UFC fight and only one punch gets thrown the entire time.
Yeah, it's like a Floyd Mayweather fight.
I don't know, obviously I'm on the bad end of it, so I'm like, yeah, it fucking sucks. If we won the 1-point game, I'd maybe be like, yeah, it's tight. You gotta hunker in. Like, fuck, I don't know.
No, I hear that, but like at the same time, my mentality is like, well, you could have toweled it like 8 minutes sooner, and then you played more paintball. Like you have an equal contribution to that,
Yeah. It was. I don't have much to say about that one.
No, I hear you there. Real quick in the chat, we got some love coming from Sanchito Papacito. I'm pretty sure that's Alex Agosto from TKO. We got Chris Harrison in the chat. We got Chris Isaacs and Don Jose Jalapeno saying hi. So this, what I want to ask you more about, like you've noticed these changes and you've played in so many different regions. Within the US and then also Canada. So what are some of the things that you've noticed that are different between the regions as far as, let's say, like level of play, or like even the play style of different teams, or like the overall like health of the scenes in general from the different regions?
Okay. It's a big question. So I'll try and like dissect it a little bit. So like there is like obviously a difference in like play style region to region, but like what's also really interesting is like there's a lot of teams that go to tournaments and they're not even playing the layout correctly, right? And really what you end up seeing is like even across all these different like I don't know pockets of the US and different scenes, the teams that are constantly like in the finals like have the correct paintball like theory and like game knowledge to like constantly be there and be breaking down the layouts to constantly be ending up like at the top. So there was like a lot of I played for a bunch of Canadian teams where I was like, we just didn't play the layout correctly, like or like at all, like so that had a huge effect on, like, I don't know, just overall performance. But like, you don't know that you're not playing it correctly if you don't play people who are like better than you, right? So if you're like at the top of the scene and you're like, well, this is how it should be, right? Nobody tests you. Nobody goes or like does something against you where you're like, holy shit, maybe we should do it this way, right? You're just like, this is how it is. Whereas, like, in the US, like, especially what I noticed in Northern California was the entire time I played semi pro or like divisional over there for DMG, we were playing against Impact when they were the best. Like, they had like Keith Brown, Rainey, Mouse, J Rab, like, they're like all the Canadians, super fucking nasty team. And their ability to just like break down the layout was crazy. And a big thing I learned out there was that like the only way you could even like remotely stand a chance at practice was that you had to play like a pro team. Like, you had to have that level of teamwork. Otherwise, you were just fucked. So, basically what I'm saying is, like, region to region, it varies based on play style, overall knowledge, right? So Texas, being one of the places where there's been like some of the best paintball players in the world come from here. Like, the overall like trickle down of that is that like the paintball IQ is just high. Like it's high and it's a super competitive environment. Like, city to city, doesn't matter if you go to Houston or San Antonio or Dallas. Like, everybody's there. They want a ball. They want to win, and they have like good paintball IQ, honestly. And I feel like that just comes from like the amount of like high level players that are there and just that trickle down effect, if that makes any sense.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's 4 pro teams out of Texas right now. You got X Factor, Diesel, Houston Heat, and Austin Notorious.
I mean, you can kind of count us.
And yeah, Infamous has several players based in Texas. I mean, Mike Urena is based in Houston as well.
Our infield's out of Giant, so
I mean,
kind of a Texas team.
Kind of. I mean, when it becomes, if you change your name to Denton Infamous, then maybe,
Yeah, I don't know. It's funny to see Los Angeles Infamous because nobody's from. We have one guy from Northern California.
Is that Thomas Taylor?
He was in Oregon. It's Tim Brusselback.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, sounds like, if you want to make it 5 Texas pro teams, then what's the price that you got to pay? Is it what, $10K to the league?
Something I think it's 5.
The 5, okay.
Yeah, I mean, a lot.
You just sell a couple more cases of paint in the background right there. You'll get that in no time. Oh yeah. So even Alex in the chat is saying Texas Infamous has a nice ring to it. I know that actually Alex Martinez said on I think it was in the Play of the Game podcast not too long ago, that when they were originally coming up with the team name X Factor, like they put it up to a vote, and like one of like the final candidates they were voting between was like X Factor, Infamous, and then something else. But like we almost had Infamous in San Antonio. That's crazy to think.
Wild. Yeah.
So I mean, with all the differences that you've noticed between all of the scenes, and it's great to hear that Texas is like really healthy, really strong. We've just got solid player base from the top down. But even then, what's something that you think that Texas as a scene could learn from any of the other regions?
That's a really interesting question, especially because like I really feel like Texas is like the mecca of paintball in the world. Like, I mean, people can argue it being like in California and such, but like current day, I really feel like it is here. Oh man, things that they could learn from other regions. It's tough to say. I think maybe one thing I would give Texas, like, I don't know how I necessarily feel about this, but there's so many great players in lower divisions in Texas. Like, there's so many people who are playing D4 who like could play a much higher level, right? Like, honestly, there's some people I've seen in D4 where I'm like, that guy could probably play semi-pro. Like, And that's like that's an interesting thing to say, right? To look at the like one of the lowest divisions and be like, yeah, there's a guy there who could like, he can do this, right? Like, so I think something that would be really interesting to see for Texas is just like more of those people like to climb out of those ranks and like actually like pursue a higher level. I don't really understand fully why they don't. Maybe maybe it's just because of like cost and stuff, and they can play so many divisional tournaments in D4. Like in Texas, I think you can play like God, it's got to be like 10 to 15 tournaments without leaving your state in
Right.
D4, right? Like, so there's another reason why our D4 teams are so good is because, like, in a season, they could play 3 times as much as the other D4 teams from around the US, right? That's another reason why I feel like we're really thriving. But I think something that would be really beneficial is just kind of like figuring out a way to kind of bridge that gap of like all these teams in D4 to like, you know, D2 semi-pro, right? Like there's a bunch of semi-pro teams in Texas, right? Like we've seen it time and time again, but like there's like maybe one D2 team that I can think of in Texas, period. Like, and I think that's Shut Up, We're Trying.
Yep.
Like I really drawing a blank otherwise. And that's one team, which is kind of weird, right? Because then, like, now we go back a little bit more. Like, yeah, sure, Titans are playing D3, but then who else? Like, what other teams? Is there like other lines from other organizations? Like, I don't know. I just feel like there's a really big gap. There's like all these teams in D4, right? And there's so many players and teams here that could like eventually like climb up and do it, but they're not, right? Because they're like happy playing D4, and I don't know. To me, it's a little weird because like I like climbed out of another country to like go and play the highest level, and I like want to play against the best people, but like maybe not everybody has that. Maybe
Right. Yeah, it's an interesting
yeah,
dilemma
that's
that
one
Texas
thing
has had.
that's like my knock on Texas paintball. Like they got so many good players. That's their problem.
Yeah, it's like there's so many good players, and where else do we put them? So we put them all in D4, which until like 2 or 3 years ago was like the intro X Ball division. D5 wasn't X Ball until they introduced it in like 2019 or 2020. So now like you've got this division, which originally was like, hey, you're learning how to play the format of X Ball.
Beginner, really. It's
Essentially, yeah.
Supposed to be a beginner level, and like there's people playing D4 who've been playing paintball for a decade, and they're good. Like, so
shoot, just look at what happened in USXBL this 2 weeks ago. Yeah, freaking Tyler Speece, former pro player for AC Dallas, comes back and he's like does his time in PB League's Purgatory, gets D ranked to like 15 points below the cutoff, and then I mean, look what happened. They have him. They've got guys that like multiple former D3 players, and they just smoke everybody. So like D4 for whatever reason in Texas seems to be a bottleneck where it's just like there's top level, like even within D4, like I'd say like, for example, if you look at the last couple of years in USXBL, if you take the top probably 8 to 10 teams in D4 USXBL, those teams could probably play like D3, D2, and like make Sunday and possibly make a run on Sunday in NXL. And regularly you see that happen. Like, hell, look at what Tribe did last year. They almost ran the table at NXL in D4 last year. Look at what happened with Shut Up, We're Trying. Same thing.
This for like almost 5 years, like since Paintball Fit. Then after Paintball Fit, you had Shut Up, We're Trying. Then you had Tribe. I mean, like these are just like, and those are like the lower division, like D4 guys, like winning the series. I mean, there's Coalition. So like, yeah, that's like another thing to be said is like our local leagues are so fucking competitive, and that's like really something that gives Texas paintball players a leg up. It might seem like a pain in the ass because you're competing locally and it's like really grueling. But that's also like one of the reasons that there's like 5 pro teams out of this like state,
Oh yeah.
So
and then like take the most recent example, Austin Notorious. They're a team that what they finally made the jump out of D4 and D3 like 3 years ago. What happens when they make the jump into D2 NXL? They win the series that year.
Yeah.
The next year, they win the semi-pro series and win the pro spot in their first year in semi-pro after spending 10 years or something like that playing D4, D3. It's unreal, like how much of like a hyperbolic time chamber D4 in Texas is. It's insane.
Man, well, yeah, I mean, you're playing in an oven, and on top of that, on a single day, I swear, in the USXBL, I've seen teams play like, oh man, it's got to be between like 6 and 8 matches in a day.
Mm.
It's crazy. So like, you play 6 to 8 matches in one day. When you go play a national tournament, you play 4 matches, you're fresh. Like,
yeah, I remember like at this past cup because of the hurricane when they had to condense it down to 3 days. So in D4 at cup there were 95 teams. So they made us play 3 games in prelims on Friday, the last prelim game Saturday morning, and then 3 playoff games on Saturday, and then quarter semis and finals on Sunday. So it went 3 games, 4 games, 3 games. And teams that weren't from Texas were dying out there when it came that 3rd or 4th game. And meanwhile, like the Titans, we made a run. We ended up getting 4th place at Cup out of 95, and like we were good to go. Even after we played that 4th game on Saturday, we're like, all right, let's play our 5th one. Let's go. Let's just win. Let's just play the whole tournament right now. We were going to be good to go the whole day. We felt like.
So I think that's also like an advantage, right? Like between like, the competitive nature of the people in Texas, the weather being super hot, you're basically in an oven. And then, on top of all that, you're playing all day. You're playing more matches than you would. You in a single day, you would play as many matches as you would at the whole event at an NXL. So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and just kind of getting back to the original question, which is what can Texas learn from the other regions? And you said like kind of, I guess filtering back out those top level players because they can go and win D3. Let's be real here. Those teams that are playing D4 that have been for a while, like, I mean, there's a lot of organizations, and there are several that did make the jump to D3 this year, either through NXL, through the new Bunker Fest series. They started playing D3, like the Texas Titans jumped to D3. Greed has 2 lines. They have Greed and Avarice in D3. Tribes in D3 now. These teams are actually making the jump, and look what happened. Like Avarice was in the finals at the first Bunker Fest event.
I hear you. And, just trying to get back to your question, like, after really, like, ruminating on it, I feel like maybe I was looking at it wrong. Like, I was being like, oh, well, the players. But really, I think maybe where Texas could learn something from the other regions. And it seems a little weird, right? So other regions, because they're a little bit smaller, they kind of just have, like, one tournament league. Except for, like, the WCPPL, which is massive. That's, like, the West Coast league, right? And it's unified. It's one big league and everybody plays in it. Whereas in Texas, we have 3 big leagues, or like semi-big leagues, right? We got the XTPL, we got the USXBL, and then we got Bunkerfest that's just come up. And I feel like if we could kind of have some sort of like morphing or like, working together of all those 3 leagues, maybe that would be something that we could take out of other leagues or like out of the other regions, like book, something that I think that they're doing well. I think that it would be really cool to see paintball get to the point where it's like, got the West Coast Conference, we got Central Conference, and we got the Southern Conference, and then maybe like Eastern, or like Southern, Eastern, Central.
Right. I hear you there. And I think that honestly, with like the reality was that until recently, like, with Bunkerfest having such a large cap on teams that can sign up, like none of the tournament series in Texas were honestly like big enough to be able to host all of the teams that are in Texas. Like if you look at the sign up limits for USXBL the last couple of years, they capped it at 20 teams. in Division 4 or 20 teams or 16 teams or 24 teams. Like, none of that's big enough. We need like 40 team signups, 50 team signups. Look at what, WC has. They've got like a 50 team or a 60 team Division 4. They've got 30 teams in D3. Like, it's insane how many teams that they have signed up, but that's like, truthfully, there needs to be that room. Like, we can't be, having a race when, like, for example, USXBL, I think, just opened up registration for the second event. I know the last couple of years it's been like, hey, you better be ready. As soon as that drops, you got to get paid. Otherwise, you're going to get locked out of D4. Like, if we have the bigger divisions, then I think once we actually have room for all of those teams, then we're not going to see like, oh, we're going to have to just like decide ahead of time. Are we going to play USXBL, or are we going to go play Bunkerfest, or are we going to go play XTPL, or are we going to play HTPS?
And maybe the bigger divisions would actually like make people want to play up, Maybe that would make them want to go to D3 and D2 and go the distance, right? Versus like just doing their thing in D4.
For sure. I mean, look, that's exactly the reasoning that Alex Martinez, when he was talking about X Factors coming up, that like he said X Factor, they won Division 3 and then they skipped D2 to go right to D1. And he said that there was a big bottleneck in D2. There was just so many teams. And so he skipped it, went to D1 and won. So I think, we have those bigger avenues, and more importantly, like those higher divisions for those teams to jump to locally without like, hey, you're D2, sorry, you're only playing national events now. Now that we have more of that avenue for the higher divisions, I think over the next couple of years, because I know change is slow, but as it gets more and more established, I think we are going to see more and more teams locally like making that commitment. And like I think a realistic goal, and I'm just talking for Bunkerfest because this is the series that the Texas Titans are playing in this year, at least for the full series. Like, we're also doing the X Factor USXBLs, and then of course we're doing the NXL event in 2 weeks. But I think a realistic goal. Now, this is it's going to take some work, but I think it can be done. Is that we see Bunkerfest where it has, I think, let's see, looking at the division limits. So there's 40 teams limit for D4, 14 teams for D3, and 10 teams for Premier. I think we can fill all of that up with just Texas teams within the next 3 to 5 years.
I mean, I don't see why not. There's enough players.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And I mean, there's even teams that they're like pretty notable names in Texas that are not signed up for this event that I think could be. For example, like, not, I don't want to like call anybody out or anything.
Calling them out.
like it's something like, if we consolidated all of the Texas teams, like, I'm not going to get into like, naming and shaming anyone for not signing up for this series. But if we did have that consolidation of all of these bigger, like more well-known Texas teams, then like, hey, you're going to see like, this is truly the best of the best in the country. I mean, look at teams that are flying in to play Bunkerfest. For example, in D3, you had Carolina Clutch, who they just took 4th place at, I want to say Sunshine. They got 4th place in. Nice. And then they come and play Bunkerfest and they don't make it out of prelims. They got...
Yep, blind layouts, man. They're hard.
Yeah. Yeah, so Texas is definitely much more competitive. I think other states are coming in and they're finding out the hard way for sure.
For sure.
All right, so continuing on with like your background and your history, like you said, you made your pro debut with the Trade My Gun Outlaws back in 2017, and then after that season, you you took a step back from the pro bracket and you played mostly with the Sacramento DMG camp before returning to pro with Diesel, who they earned their pro spot by winning semi-pro in 2019, and they played their first pro event in Vegas of 2020 before the COVID shutdown happened. So what was the reason for like taking that step back after that initial jump to pro?
So I went up to pro from playing. I played semi-pro for a while, but I played in the Trade My Gun Outlaws like organization because I was trying to work my way up to their pro team. So I started for their D2 team, and midway through the season, I had an opportunity to move up. So Atlantic City Open 2017, played my first event with the team. I'm playing in pro. I'm in these matches and such, but we're not really like winning. We're kind of getting our shit kicked in. We're not really a good team. And so I get this opportunity to step back and play semi-pro with SD Aftermath. And this would mean instead of me driving 10 hours one way in a car to Fort Wayne, Indiana, I can get on a 4-hour flight and fly to California, and everything's covered. On top of that, I'm going to get to practice Dynasty and other great teams. At the time, Mike Hinman owned APX, so kind of have access to an unlimited paint supply. And yeah, so I went and I was like, fuck it, I'm doing this, right? And I really did not have what it took to make it in that organization. You know, Mike is like a very, very generous and supportive person. Like I have a lot of like respect for him. You know, he's done a lot for a lot of people. I just had a really hard time playing in that environment and performing well. So I got cut a week before Vegas in 2018. And this was probably one of the most tumultuous seasons for me within my entire career, because I went from playing D2 or pro at Cup to being like D2 at Vegas. I ended up winning with the CP Raiders. But I'm not living in California. I'm still living in Ontario. So after that event, I don't even know what I'm going to do. I'm like, maybe I'm going to retire. I don't really know. You know, like did the pro thing. I got a national win. Like that's cool. But like deep down, like a part of me like still wanted to play. I still love the game regardless of all that shit that had happened. So I was like, you know what, fuck it. Like I'm gonna try and like make a run at like building a pro team with my local friends. So we play like this event in Dallas, and this is like an event. This is kind of like an interesting turning point too, because like I wasn't even gonna play Dallas, and then it was on my birthday, and my friends were like, "Yo, we'll pay for all your entry, your hotel, everything. Just play with the team." And we didn't have to pay for like a flight because we drove. And when we drove down, we ended up bringing a whole bunch of paint back. So I had a blast. It was like a super fun. It was like my 22nd birthday or something, and like it was just like a blast and got me in it. And so with those guys, I was like, fuck it, let's make a run at it. Let's like try and like build a pro team from Ontario, Canada. And so that team was called Just Us. And so we enter the next event in semi-pro, and we lose every game, but we pitted for a whole bunch of different teams, and we end up leaving the event with like 80 cases of 5-star, right? We got last place at this event. We get home, 4 or 5 days roll by, it's Friday. I'm like, all right, we have free paint. Let's go. Let's practice. We suck. We need to get better. Nobody showed up. I didn't sleep for like 48 hours. I was like, fucked up about it, right? Because I was like, how the fuck are you gonna build a pro team from Ontario when you literally have all this fucking free paint and you won't even show up? Like you suck. Like you need to get better, right? And you won't even show up. I was like, I don't know. It just kind of like fucked with me, right? I was like, well, if I'm gonna do this, I probably am not doing this here, right? Like if I'm gonna actually be like a legit pro one day, like I don't think I'm building a pro team from Ontario. Like there's just not like has to be 6 to 8 other guys around me who are like want it just as bad, right? To like go and really do that. So I remember when I was pitting for all these teams, Tim Brusselback saw me and he's like, dude, why don't you just kind of like move to the West Coast? And he like just like kind of like half jokingly like said that. And I was like, I am going to come visit. Anyway, so after that 48 hours of me like not sleeping, being like fucked up about it, I was like, fuck it. I booked my ticket to California and I went out there for 2 weeks. And I was like, if this goes well and I like it here, I'm moving, right? And their pro team was kind of like looking like DMG at the time was like, yeah, if you move, like we'll put you on the pro team for sure. So sure enough, I fucking move all my shit. I come home after that trip. I switch my schooling to online. I sell my car, buy a minivan. I cancel my lease. I end my gym membership, and I drive all the way from Toronto, Ontario to Sacramento. I meet up with Joe Barrett in Buffalo, and he ends up helping me out and driving a lot of the way as well. Mind you, he did the majority of the drive with his fucking knee while he was like texting on his phone. Oh my god. It was like I'm like, Joe, everything I own is in this van. He's like, don't worry about it. I'm a professional multitasker. I'm like, oh my god. Sure enough, he got us there. He got us there safe. But I swear there was a good 10 hours he drove where he was just on his phone driving with his knee. It was fucked. Anyways, but I get over to Sacramento and Dave's like, you're gonna play D2 and you're gonna help this team be good, right? Playing in those lower divisions, kind of like it teaches you to be the dude, right? To be the guy to go like win games when it's necessary. So I was like, all right. So I rose to the occasion, and the first event we're playing Division 2. I think it's Chicago, and I take the team to the finals, and we play CP Raiders, which is the team that I won the first event with. We lose in overtime because one of my teammates shoots 3 guys and starts dancing down the sideline because he thinks he just won a 3-on-1. But there's a 4th guy, and he runs out of the snake and he hits the buzzer while my teammate is celebrating dancing down the side. So I lost a paintball tournament in a race because my teammate was dancing. Yeah, so like at this point, I'm so exhausted from the tournament. Like, I didn't even have energy to be upset. I was just like, okay, just like,
Jeez.
fuck.
That's brutal. Like, that's like how to go from golden barrel to cut in like 5 seconds. Jeez.
Oh my god. So yeah. Anyways, obviously, like, dude, we'll probably never live that down, and like, it's whatever. Like, I see him now, and we like laugh about it, but anyway, so the next event, I think I can't remember if I played 2 events with them or just one. Oh yeah, there was just one because this is like the 5th team that I'm playing with at this season. So DMG semi-pro going into World Cup only has like 5 guys, so they picked me up off the D2 team, so they have 6. And I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. We go through Cup, we go like 2-2. We don't make it on. Whole off season, I'm like, I'm grinding. I'm gonna play for the pro team. You know, like that was the goal. Like I should be already have been playing for the pro team. Is how I feel. And they pick up 2 other guys over me who had been in the system longer. They pick up George McLean and Dylan Bounds. Wait, am I saying that right? Dylan Boyum.
Yeah.
Bounds. Dylan Boyum, Debo. And so these guys go on, and they're going to play pro with the team in, I guess it's 2019. Mm-hmm. So I end up playing the whole season in semi-pro with the semi-pro team. And again, a new team, right? Like, I don't know if you caught that, but in 2018, every single event that I played, every national event, was with a different squad. Mm-hmm. So, anyways, something that's nice about 2019 is that it's the same squad, right? Like, all the way through, like at least the core of the team. And we make top 4 every event, which is kind of weird and surprising because we're playing against like mutinies in our division. Like, they just got second in the series to Aftermath. Like, we got Diesel in our division. Like, anyways, so we make top 4 every event. And then we had this Yeah, anyway, so I end up facing off against like Mark Johnson like 3 different times over the season. And at the end of the season, he was like, him and Clint like approached me and they're like, hey, like, come join us, right?
Hmm.
Like, come play pro. Like we got this deal out in Texas. It's going to be like this and this. And I was like, damn, that's pretty sweet. But a part of me was like, I moved here to play with DMG, right? So I'm like, I kind of already know at this point, like, I'm gonna go to Texas. Like the deal is just like too good to pass up, and even if I played pro for DMG, like the deal to go to Diesel is just so much better. So, but in my head, I'm like, I have to see this through. So I go to the third tryout now, essentially for DMG, and they again pick up 2 other people over me. So I'm like, it's all right. They're having their big meeting and stuff, and I'm like, hey, listen, guys, I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna go play for Diesel. Like they offer me this great deal. I'm gonna move, and like it kind of sucked because I like built a lot of like relationships out in Sacramento, and I really like love a lot of amazing people out there. But I just needed to do that for me, right? And so uh, I moved to Texas, and the first team we play in the pro division in 2020 was Diesel, or was DMG, and we mercy ruled them. So that felt good. And then then I blew my knee out in the next match, and then COVID hit, and nobody played any paintball for months, and then World Cup happened.
I mean, there was also, don't
Yeah, and
forget,
there's
there
and
was
there's
the
that like
ultimate
nice little
shootout
fill
thing.
in
That was fun.
of those couple years where I wasn't playing pro.
Yeah, and then now you've kind of been consistent except for the injury ever since.
Yeah, exactly. I did hurt my knee prior to Florida last year. I was like 1 week out from the event, and I like tore my MPFL. Fucking bullshit. But got through it, came back. I feel stronger than ever, so that's cool.
That's good. Good thing we have that insurance now, right?
Yeah, no, that was actually something I forfeited as a Canadian coming down here.
Ooh.
It was sweet to have health insurance back there, but like, you fuck up your knee, you're like, okay, cool. I need to sell some gear. Like,
Yeah,
I
for
need
real.
to sell some paintball equipment right now.
Yeah, it's kind of brutal down here in the States.
Yeah,
So,
I was really lucky that I didn't need surgery. I just needed to pay for PT and X-rays and stuff, so it was okay.
even then though, that ain't cheap. I haven't gone through that all last year. It ain't cheap.
Was it for your back?
Yeah, it's for disc herniation, unfortunately. So, was many weeks of PT and several X-rays, CT scan, couple injections, things like that. So, yeah, good to see that your journey kind of ended up how it was supposed to. And now, I mean, look at you now. You're playing for Infamous, which is definitely a well-respected, storied organization for many years in paintball. And yeah, good to see you. Playing on the field now more and more with them. So this next question, which I know you talked a lot about, like kind of your climb and what like the details of what exactly did that involve as far as like the commitment, the grind, like what exactly are you doing to put in the work? So along with that theme, this question is brought to us by Paintball Kumite, which is Colt Roberts' training regimen. Message at Paintball Kumite on Instagram to join a class. Mention the show for a free 1-hour session. So for anyone who's in the midst of their own personal climb to pro, what advice would you give them? And just to help kind of guide that question, especially as it relates to either the amount of work required, like even as specific as like how many hours a week or how many days a week are you going to drill, and even let's talk a little bit about how much traveling to play affected your trajectory.
Oh my god. Massive sacrifice. Massive. Like the amount of weekends and time away from my family and just just overall like the time commitment, the mental tenacity that you need to like actually do it, because like it's not going to be sunshine and rainbows. Like, everybody out there that you're playing wants to take it from you. Like, nobody's like, oh, I'll give this guy a win. That'll be cool. Like, no. Like, over my cold, dead body. So, like, the amount of, like, mental tenacity and grit that you really have to like, do it. And, like, almost, man, like, the amount of times that I've just been like, am I crazy? Like, am I crazy that I'm, like, doing this? Like, it's okay now, right? Like, it's like, oh, sweet, yeah, it worked out. Cool, I got the fucking Pro DNA banner behind me and playing with Infamous. It's fine now. But holy shit, dude, when I moved to another country and I didn't get on that pro team, some hard looks in the mirror, dude. You gotta do some serious, like, soul searching and figure out if it's really gonna be for you, right? Because, like, it's not for everyone. There's a reason that there's only, like, 200 pros. And within that 200 pros, there's another reason that there's only, like, a certain section of those that have been there and stay, right? People come up and go out of pro, like, a lot, but there's, like, a select group that stay. So it's really not, it's not for everyone, I think one of the coolest things that I ever heard somebody say that, like, really actually motivated me was back when Grayson Goff had started BKI, right? And he wrote an article, and the article said something along the lines of, like, you won't do it. You won't. You can't. Right? It was, like, along those lines. And at the end, it was like he kind of wanted somebody to prove him wrong, right? And honestly, like, I feel like it's a pretty good thing to say to a lot of people. It's like, you won't do it. Cool. You did it once? Did you stay? Like, it's not for everyone, right? Like, and I'm not trying to be discouraging, but it's like the sheer amount of time that you're going to have to put in to do this, like, you kind of almost have to go all in to really do it. Or you got to live in, like, one of the best regions in the world and have it be, like, in your backyard, right? There's certain players that are like, man, they're like a product of their environment. Like, there were so many people that I met at Capital Edge, and they just, like, climbed through the ranks, but like at their local field. But the best team at their local field was Impact. So, like, as they climb through the ranks of their local field, eventually they're just like, holy shit, this guy's, like, one of the best in the world now, right? But it's just because of, like, he's a product of his environment. Same thing happens in Texas, right? There's tons of really great players. There's people who end up getting picked up out of D4 to go play, like, pro. Like, I swear Ryan Hall came out of D4 to, like, go play for AC Dallas. So.
Oh yeah, and I mean, it's important that,
long story short for that question is have grit.
It's important to truly put into perspective, and not just, like, through, oh, we're going to use the 10,000 hours thing. Like, for most people, they don't have a frame of reference as to, like, what does that truly mean as far as time commitment. Like, you're constantly drilling at the field. Let's say, like, in addition to playing Saturday, Sunday, you're going to the field like one or more weeknights just to go shoot at cones or metal plates.
Yep. You better like the sound of that ding, dude. I don't know what to tell you. Like, cause holy shit. Yeah. That's again what I mean about the time commitment. It's not just your weekends. It's like, your Tuesday and your Thursday, or maybe it's your Monday and your Wednesday, right? Like, I remember I was around Heat, and this is when Jason Trosen was actually coaching them. Now J-Tro, like, runs the NXL. He's, like, the commissioner. And I remember him looking these guys in the face, like, top pros, and being like, you need to be playing 4 days a week. Like, he's telling these guys this. He's like, you should be playing 4 days a week. If you're not, other guys are. And then that's also crazy, because it's like, try telling that to, like, somebody who's coming up, right? It's like, oh, hey, like, play 4 days a week. Maybe you'll make it. 4 days a week? Maybe.
I mean, not to mention, like, there's, like, let alone the time. Crazy. Yeah, let alone the time. There's also the financial commitment there, which, like, let's say you're shooting 2 cases on Saturday, 2 cases on Sunday, and then you're splitting a case between your 2 weeknights. Like that's 5 cases per week that you're shooting, which that can be, let's say you're getting even if you're getting a little bit of financial help, whether it's through your local field is giving you like a frequent flyer miles or whatever, that's still like $200+ a week that you're spending on paint alone just to drill and practice, let alone the events themselves, the travel costs, the paint at events, the entries, and the equipment and all that. Like that is a significant time investment. That's a significant financial investment for those that are like truly trying to play as one of the 200 players in the professional division.
Absolutely. And one thing I will say for people who are like trying to make that climb is this was something that I did, and it helped a lot because yes, paint is expensive. But it comes down to how badly you want it, right? Like you can use less paint and do more physical stuff and like drills that are like less paint oriented. But the thing that I want to like the nugget of knowledge is go around to all the pits in your staging area or whatever. There's going to be several bags that people just throw away that have got like 5 to 15 paintballs. Bro, you pick up enough of those bags, you're going to have some pods. And once you have some pods, you can do some snap shooting. So.
Oh, yeah. And like one of my biggest pet peeves is at the end of practice, you've got players that'll just shoot their hopper into the ground before they like take their gun apart and stuff. And I'm like, that full hopper is like 200 to 250 paintballs. That's 200 to 250 reps right there of snap shooting.
Yeah, totally.
That you just shot into the ground. And like just min-maxing things like that can make a huge difference over the course of a year or multiple years. And it's incredible like how much use of your time and your resources that you can make, or that you might even like not be doing as efficiently as you could.
Yeah, I don't know, that's just something I think that could help some people, right? And then it's like kind of a way that you get like some free paint.
For sure.
The other thing that's like really useful is like go and when you go to like an NXL or a national tournament, pit for teams that can't bring their paint home, like they're like flying or whatever. You'll get a lot of paint and you'll build some good connections. It's worth it. You end up getting like, if you pit for a team, man, there's been times I walk away with like 12 cases of free paint for a match, right? Like if they're getting rid of all of it, like because they have like a good deal or they want to shoot fresh paint every match, you can get a lot of really good quality paint for free. So.
Oh yeah, I want to give a quick shout out to Baltimore Revo. We had that connection with them. Like I think we were pitting for X Factor at the last NXL Dallas event, and Revo happened to be in the split deck, and like we had literally like our full line there, like 10 dudes pitting for X Factor, and so I think we did a few things for Revo as well, either filling pods or wiping or whatever, and they gave us their paint for that match. Like stuff was, and they were really cool about it. And also another pro tip that I'll throw in for free: whenever you go to events, buy just like a big, like value size like box of gallon size Ziploc bags.
yeah.
Do sure. That, and then when your day is done, put your full pods, your hoppers, dump them into those Ziploc bags. A case of paint, like each gallon size bag will hold just under half a case. So I'm just going to throw that out there, and that's your practice paint for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, definitely a good one to have for people.
Yeah, for sure. So this next question, I'm actually going to run to the restroom while you're answering this, and I'll be back as quick as I can. So I'm going to set you up with this. So looking at to when you joined Diesel, you started not only competing in, with them in the NXL, you also started jumping into the mechanical formats, the ICC and the ICPL events with the AC Empire, AC Powerhouse teams. So how has that experience been competing in those mechanical formats? And I'll be right back.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, that was like a really cool thing that Greg got me to do because I had never really like played mechanical paintball prior to that. But he really introduced me to that whole scene, playing 10-man, 5-man hyperball mounds. Like I kind of run around the woods a little bit, but not like playing a tournament like that. Um, and yeah, I mean, I think that playing mechanical paintball and 10-man like that is really good for your communication. I know that it seems a little odd, but it forces you to like break down what's happening and be like calm, especially because it kind of gives you like a big window of time. So you can be like, the mound over there by the 30 on the right side, like, like you get to like really like describe stuff. Like you can like be like, oh, this and that, but it's the comms are really huge, especially because you're solving like a bigger puzzle when you're out there. It's not just 5 people, it's 10, right? And how many bodies you've shot and etc. Um, and it's also just like a good way to get back to like the roots of paintball. And I feel like that has a lot of like, I don't know, I feel like it has value to paintball enthusiasts. Like there's going to be a lot of people who go and play hyperball or mounds or whatever, and they're like, ah, fuck this shit, this is stupid, I got shot from behind my bunker, right? But like, you win some games out there and you kind of like see the value, or like, you shoot somebody through a bunker or over a mound and you're like, that was kind of cool. Right? So like I feel like it's cool to like get back to the roots because it gives you a greater appreciation for where the game is at now.
Yeah, and I know there's so many players that have gotten in, let's say, the last 5 years. Like 5 years is somewhat of a long time being in tournament paintball consistently, but that's just 2018. There's so much more history that has happened before then. Like 2018 is like, if you think about 5 years of being in tournament paintball, 2018 is after Impact's massive run that they had. So these players wouldn't even know about like how dominant the Edmonton Impact name was. And I had the great honor of appearing on Fred Schultz's podcast that he does every week, and I think it's actually happening while we're filming this one as well. And it was cool because they brought Chris Rangel and Jeff Munoz on to talk about the Bunkerfest event that was at the time, it was like right about to happen. It was like the week of Bunkerfest, and they brought me on just to talk about like, as a customer for the one that was in Round Rock and then the one over in Louisiana, just to like talk about, hey, as the customer, what was our experience with it? And I was telling some like pro players, I was like, hey, I got this huge honor of being on Fred Schultz, like come check it out. And Ryan Brand was like, oh, there's some legendary names like Bud Orr also on that show. And then like even some pros like Colt Roberts was like, who's that? And it's insane to me, like just how much history there is in the game that either hasn't been preserved for whatever reason, but like a lot of it seems to have been lost. And it's like, even just doing the podcast, I feel like it's also kind of a bit of like a historian role where we're preserving some of those stories and, passing on the knowledge and the lessons to the current player base.
For sure, dude. And like, man, just yeah, 10-man's a lot of fun. I feel like everybody who's like a paintball enthusiast like should get out there and play some, just because like it's important to see where it all started. I think it's neat and like kind of funny to hear that you say that with like Bud Orr and Colt. But like, I wonder if Bud Orr even knows who Colt Roberts is, right? So it's like maybe it goes both ways.
Right. Yeah, I mean, those guys are definitely not young anymore. I think Bud Orr is like in his like 70s or 80s now. So like it's definite like gap
Damn,
there.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
I swear he made like an autococker or something.
Yeah, it's definitely like
I don't know.
They appeared like back in the 80s and 90s. They were like, yeah, we've got magazine issues from like 1991 that we're on the cover of, like things like that,
Damn.
It's crazy. Let's see. Just looking at the chat real quick. Yeah, more guys giving you love. Um, yeah,
Thanks,
and
guys.
then Alex is saying you better wash your hands, young men. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I teach in an elementary school. I'm not trying to get that bad juju on me with all the germs and all that. So I mean, I know you've been talking about how you love the experience going to play these ICCs and ICPL events, and you're actually a multiple time champion in ICPL. A couple of times in the 5v5 format, and now most recently the 10v10 format with your win just over a week ago with Infamous and the Pro DNA affiliate open. So how was that experience winning the most recent event in 10v10?
It was cool. It was probably like the most fun I've ever had, like playing a paintball tournament. Period, which was unique. like, like I just yeah, it was just a lot of fun, man. Like the Infamous guys are a great group to be around, and like um, a lot of laughs. Very very competitive team. It's just a sick environment to be in. Something that's a little bit weird about 10 man is that the finals are kind of like anticlimactic in a sense, or were for me at least. So in 10 man, you have like this the semifinals is like 9 teams playing, and the top team out of each bracket of three goes on to play in the finals. So teams go on to play in the finals round. You play 2 games, right? So Infamous plays the All Americans, and then we play Ground Zero, or vice versa. We played Ground Zero and then the All Americans. And then those teams are going to play the other 2 teams, right? So we play our first 2 games. We have a stale game against Ground Zero where it's either like one body either way. I think they maybe even had one more body than us. But then we play the All Americans, and at the end, we're alive with like 4 or 5 bodies, and we get the flag hang and pull, or pull and hang. So that's like right there. We like have all our points and everything, and that's like our last game. Like we win that point against the Americans, and it's like, okay, well now we'll see. It's not like we're like, yeah, we won the event, fuck yeah. It's like, well, we'll see what happens in this next game. So in the next game, if the All Americans, it was basically like whoever like pulled the flag and like won the game, like was gonna win the tournament, and it was a stalemate. So
Mm.
like it's like it was like the most anticlimactic finish, and it's funny because it's like one of my highest placings, right? Like so it was just like funny because it's like you're just watching it tick down, and there's just still people sitting in their mound, and you're like, oh, we're about a minute away from this, but I don't think anything's gonna happen. And then sure enough, like like it ends and stale, and my teammates start celebrating and stuff, and I'm like, sweet, yeah, we won. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it was really anticlimactic. So I hope to have other wins that are a little bit more climactic and like fun and exciting. Like that one was just kind of like, all right, well we played all our games, we did our best. See how the cards fall.
And that's the worst. I mean, I know like the Titans at
It's really weird,
Bunkerfest.
right?
Yeah, like I mean the Titans at Bunkerfest, we were in a situation where we had to hope that 2 teams tied in order for us to go on because we had 1 win, 1 loss, 2 ties in prelims. And no, I know exactly what that feeling's like. You're like hoping that nothing happens on the field.
Dude. Yeah.
It's weird. So I know earlier you were talking about how like the mechanical format it really helps with your communication aspects and really drawing that out. Do you feel like players should participate in both X ball and mechanical formats? Do you think that there are parts of the game, like obviously the communication stuff, but do you think that there are other things that players can take with them from the mechanical and the classical format to improve their X ball?
Yes. I feel like there's so many things that like just the craftiness and like grit and like meanness of old school paintball is like pretty sweet. And like I think that that has value, especially like I don't know. It's almost like comparing like generations. It's like, like X ball is like still like pretty cool and stuff, but like man, like you play some of these older events, and these like old men are like gritty, mean motherfuckers. You know what I mean? And like you play some of these events in X Ball, and you're like, go crush this fucking kid, like this teenager, right? So it's like, I don't know. I feel like there's value in terms of like just mentality and like kind of like grit, but there's also like certain things that like come from way back with 10 man, like certain like techniques. Like one of the ones that I think of immediately that I think would help everybody who's listening is just the aim so fucking high in 10 man because the fields are huge, right? But aiming high in general is a really like good practice to have even on an X ball field. A lot of the times people are aiming at people's heads and then that paintball drops a little bit and it maybe hits that guy in the elbow and bounces him and that guy's still alive. But if you aimed higher, right, like maybe a foot or two above that guy's head, maybe you hit him in the hopper or in the face and he dies, right? So it's like that's like one little like thing from 10 man where I'm like, yeah, aiming higher, I mean, has a huge like benefit to all paintball, right? So that's like one little thing that I can think of.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Yeah, just looking in the chat there, getting some questions in. So real quick, if y'all have any questions you want to ask Ben, get them in the chat. We're getting towards the back end of our show. So get them in and we'll go through them all before we finish. So this next question is brought to us by FUAthletics. Go to thefuathletics.com and use code inthepits25 for 25% off of your order. So Ben, you've been playing for quite a long time now. What if you had to pick one single moment that's your favorite moment in your career, what would you pick?
Man, I don't know. There's a lot of really good moments. A lot of really good moments. Ooh, I think some of like the international wins would probably be like some of my high points. Like there was a tournament I got to beat. Like I got to play with Breakout Spa, and we were in Thailand, and we beat Tim Montresor and Chad George to like win the finals for like it was like World Cup Asia, and I got to do that with Harrison Fry and Joe Barrett and a bunch of my other like Belgian friends from Breakout Spa, and that was really awesome. You know, like that was like such a fucking cool event. Like the fields were like directly across a 2-lane like paved high like little street, and then there was like ocean. Like it was like right on the beach. It was like the closest I could be to like Huntington Beach, right? Like that kind of closeness to the beach. It was incredible and like super hot and just tropical. And all the local players just treat Americans like celebrities, and that was like a pretty cool experience. Yeah, I don't know, probably PAL's Asia World Cup like 2018.
Yeah, it sounds right.
That's like a high point. I got to win a Super 7 with Marcelo. That was also pretty cool. Man, but like these are like small peaks. Like so much of my overall like paintball experience that I enjoy is just like the weekends like that are just like filled with laughter and like good times with your friends, you know? Like ultimately that's like outside of like my competitive nature, the relationships is really what keeps me in the game and has kept me in the game for this long, you know? It's all the friends and people that I've met.
For sure. It's like getting your photos back after a tournament. You're like, okay, I look cool in this one, this breakout one with the squad looks dope. We all got our guns up at the same time. That looks cool. But it's like the really the great photos are the ones that are taken either in the pits or like between matches, like the candids, you know, those are the best ones.
Yeah. Or the blurry nights after.
Oh yeah. What's also interesting is that both you and several other players that I've asked this question about their favorite moment in their careers, like all of them have given a nod to going to play overseas. Seems like such a like huge thing. Like you're thinking like, okay, traveling is awesome, but like you're traveling to play paintball. Like who gets to do that?
Yeah, it's pretty cool, and you get to do it with your friends.
Oh,
I remember Roy Richards said this in like it was like Soldiers of Misfortune. It's like a Durder movie from like 2000s, mid 2000s, and he said, like, I'm not making shit. I live out of a trash bag, but at least I'm traveling the world and shooting people with my friends. And I was like, that's fucking cool. Sign me up. It was like, that's sick.
For sure. Yeah. So now, kind of looking forward to where you're at right now, and looking to the coming future. So this past offseason, you announced the day after World Cup that you were a free agent. Would you like to share any details about like how that went down exactly? Like, you were definitely like the first pro player to announce your free agency. So what was it, more of like a mutual parting ways, or was it just like time for a change?
It was so it was like a week after Cup, but regardless, yeah, I knew that I needed to change and to leave. And like I called Mark and he asked why, and I told him that I needed a change, and he was like, "Well, where are you going?" And I was like, "I don't know," because I didn't have a spot to go to yet. So I left the team, and then I was like, "Okay, I'll figure it out from here." I felt like it would be disrespectful to play for Diesel and then be like pursuing other teams. I almost felt like, just out of respect to like Mark and Greg, who had really like done a lot for me, like that wasn't the way that I wanted to leave with them. I would rather be like, I know that this situation is no longer for me, and then figure it out, right? Versus be like, oh yeah, we're like, hedging my bets, or like, where am I gonna go? And like, no, like I don't want that. So yeah, I left the team, and then I started I was free agency, and some people approached me, and I approached some people too, and ended up coming to play for Infamous. It was sweet.
Cool, man. Yeah, I think as far as like the timing of the free agency announcement, I think I got you and Rainey mixed up. I think Rainey was the day after Cup, where it was like he was a free agent.
Yeah, maybe that was an interesting one too. But I'm happy for that guy. I think. I mean, immediately, with Damage, they're in the finals, doing great. So that's cool.
I mean, every team that Rainey's been on, he's found success. I mean, he comes to X Factor and they win the series. They win 2 events that year. Obviously, he was on Impact during their massive run. So
whenever I'm not playing against him, I love watching that guy play. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure, man. So it's cool that Infamous, you found a home in Infamous, and we were talking earlier, like Infamous has several Texas players, so it was interesting that like Ryan Hall, once AC, that core AC Dallas lineup falls apart, heads over to Infamous, and now you're there as well. So you're not the only Texas player that's on that squad. So
it was funny. We after we won the event, there was 4 of us on the pro team that had played for AC Diesel or Dallas at one point. Actually, I think all of us had played for Diesel at one point because Ryan Hall did. So it was me, Ryan, Grayson, and AJ Trillett. We have like an AC alumni photo.
That's awesome. I mean, just look at all of those players coming out of that camp. Like, even if they didn't necessarily find success or wins with the AC program, they go off to other teams and they all get their wins. Like Matt Jackson going to Impact, immediately winning the Golden Barrel. I think Ryan Hall has had some finals appearances. John Jackson, did John Jackson win it? Was he on the Ironman when they won that event?
No, John joined the Ironman and then retired, and then went into coaching. And I think last year he got an award for like best coach at one of the events. I mean, dude, what a brilliant paintball mind, truly. Like, dude is underrated, not talked about enough. Very, very, very intelligent, knows his shit. He's a big reason that AC Dallas was as like strategic as they were.
For sure. Yeah, every one of those players. I mean, even TJ Danner coming down to X Factor. He's now that it seems like he's healthy again. He's definitely making big things happen for them. It's awesome to see him play.
Hell yeah. Fuck. Man, that whole thing, fucking poor TJ, dude. That thing was so shitty. Like, he was literally carrying paint to like go and get better, and like slipped on a stair, and like his knee went into like a cement step, and just it devastated him. But honestly, it's it's actually just because he came back too early because AC Dallas really needed players and like because they ran like 6 guys like the majority of their entire like paintball I don't know career as that team was like the core playing and so I think he just rushed back into it a little bit too soon.
Yeah. Yeah, it would have been, it's definitely a case of what if for that squad. And they made the finals like 2 or 3 times in one season, and they just I guess ran out of steam every time. I think they met the Russians, they met Heat, and I want to say they met X Factor during the finals in one of the years. And just
they're the best paintball team to never win a tournament.
For sure. And them all going individually to win. I mean, Brad McCurley also got a win with Damage.
Yeah, that's true.
So
I did go to Damage, that's right.
Yeah, and definitely camp well worth playing for, and the proof is in the pudding. So, looking forward to now your current team, Infamous. This past event at the Sunshine State Major, they made Sunday. You dominated Legion, you dominated the Saints, you lost close games to X Factor and Dynasty in prelims, and you ended up moving on at 2-2 before you lost in the wild card round to the Hurricanes in that 1-0 match that you had mentioned previously. So could you summarize how the Sunshine event went for you?
Yeah, 2 words. Fucking boring. Dude, oh my god, it was just such a slow layout, and I understand it's like a big you gotta play hella team ball, and I mean truthfully hats off to the Hurricanes, right? Super disciplined match, right? I never even played a match in my entire paintball career that was 1-0, but I want to play some paintball. I want to play a match. I want to play a point. So, yeah, that's my quick summary.
Yeah, definitely a slower layout compared to what we've been used to the last couple of years. And I mean, if you go back and watch, I was doing the episode right before that event was with Let's Talk Paintball, Vince Cunningham. And we were giving our predictions on the whole thing. And I was like, look, having watched this layout play out, because I had the privilege of getting to go travel with X Factor to their scrimmage against Heat and the Bears. And I was watching this and I was like, look, points are going 8-9 minutes in practice. How do you think these points are gonna go at the event? And it's gonna go way slower. So I was like, okay, these teams that have the newer rosters are probably gonna struggle because they just haven't had that time together to really gel. And
it's a good prediction. But there were some teams with newer rosters that did pretty well. The Bears made it pretty far, right?
Yeah, the Bears made Sunday.
But at the same time, it's their core has been playing together for so long, so it's can you really call it your roster?
I mean, looking at the top 10 teams, so obviously Dynasty is at the top, and they had 2 new pickups, but it's Dynasty. Damage, all they did was add Rainey. You got Impact, who they lost a couple players to Diesel, to be fair. But you've got such a huge experience with everybody else, and plus the coaching staff. And then NYX was kind of a surprising one, making top 4. Although I thought they had a somewhat favorable playoff draw, in my opinion. When you,
hats off to them. I think that's their best performance yet, and I know those guys are working really hard. And it's kind of a weird deal to see them do as well with Harris being gone, and also. It's weird to see Russian Legion doing so badly with Harris. That's strange because, I don't really feel I mean, I'm not part of that organization, but it's just a weird thing to observe. You know what I mean? Is one guy really doing all that?
I mean, I think the Russians have got other things going on.
I agree.
To be fair,
fuck, man, home country's in war, so it's that's probably weighing heavy on some people.
Yeah, that. But at the same time, I think that those other players on NYX have definitely stepped up. I think they took Dynasty to overtime in the semifinals, if I remember correctly. Like, it was a super close game.
Yeah, I think you're right. That was the point with Marcelo where he ran through a shot like 3 of them, right?
Yes, yeah, Marcelo, he did that in the semis, and then he did it again in the finals.
Wow.
Yeah, Marcelo had himself a tournament for sure. So yeah, going into this next one, speaking of Dynasty, you're in a bracket with them. You're in a bracket with Heat, Notorious, and Uprising. So y'all have one of the tougher brackets, I'd say, in the event. Is there anything that Infamous has been focusing on or has set themselves like for a goal to improve going into this next event here in Texas?
So I'm speaking as like one of the new guys, right? Like the team has been together for a really long time. The core of the team has been together for like 6+ years ish, like really long time. The main thing with the newer people coming in, right? Because the team had a 3-person turnover, so it's almost like 30% of their team. It's really just like teamwork and chemistry. Those are things that we're going to continue to like be working on because we really believe that those are some of the keys to success, right? With me, Joe, and Sam, all like newer players, just getting in and mixing in with the core is really important, and just overall improving our teamwork going into the next event.
For sure. I mean, y'all have got talent for sure. You've got the talent to do it, and the pro bracket just in general is looking more and more difficult every year. It's gone from like a top 8 or 9 and a bottom 11 to like a top 18 and a bottom 2 as far as like who can take games off of each other. Like the bottom 2 teams are probably not going to take many games this season, and unfortunately that does look like the Saints this year. But that's just how tough it is now in the pro bracket. Like you've got NYX making a top 4, whereas last season they were at World Cup fighting to not get relegated. Yeah. That's how like that team turned it around from being on the edge of relegation to being a top 4 team in over the course of the offseason. Like you've got Red Legion taking 19th place.
Yes, weird. I don't know. No coaches, I guess. I don't know.
Something like that. I don't know, dude, but it's like it's a very interesting place that we're finding ourselves in right now. Like Revo took 15th. The Ironmen took 17th. Yeah. Aftermath also didn't make Sunday. Diesel with their stacked roster didn't make Sunday. And it's like, man, it's just going to get more and more difficult throughout the season.
Mm-hmm. Totally. I mean, yeah, we'll see how it all shakes out. First event, it's hard to say because there's so many like new teams forming, right? Like I mean that could be a reason that Diesel struggled is just because of like as you were saying, like teams with newer rosters, like there's a lot of mixing that's going on there, right? Like they're really kind of trying to figure out their footing. But yeah, the Russian Legion thing, I don't know. There's bigger things going on behind the scenes. I don't really know enough about it. But it's surprising because I've followed that team since like 2006. I don't think they've ever had a performance that bad.
Oh, definitely not.
So, yeah. I mean, I'm sure they'll be back with a vengeance.
For sure. Yeah, I think as far as like these top teams not having a great first event, I think a little bit was like some of the brackets were really heavy that first event. Like Bracket A was Dynasty, X Factor, Legion, Infamous, and the Saints. That was your bracket at the first event. Like, that's tough. Bracket B was Heat, Revo, Hurricanes, Diesel, Ironmen. That's tough. Whereas, like, this event, it seems like it's a little bit more balanced out, but, like, Bracket B is still tough. You still got, like, Damage, Hurricanes, Diesel, Revo, Legion. That is a brutal bracket if you're just going by, like name brand alone.
No, you're totally right.
So
We'll see. Yeah, at this next one, I think we got Heat, Dynasty, Notorious, and Uprising.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's not an easy bracket by any means.
No, and Notorious is only going to get better as the season goes on. Uprising historically is kind of like a wild card. You don't really know the Uprising you're going to get. But also, I feel like you could probably say similar things about like Infamous, just as a general organization. Like, sometimes they're really good, sometimes they're bad.
Mm-hmm.
Dynasty, obviously, always going to be like the hardest game. But I mean, I like that we have them because, like, win or lose, we're going to learn something from that match. Playing those guys, like, you just get better, period. It's just an effect.
Right. Yeah, and there's also something about having that top team in your bracket, and you're like, all right, that like we know on paper what the expected result is, and it almost like for those teams like on paper, let's say that you're expected to have the edge over, you're like, all right, we know because we have Dynasty in our bracket, we have to handle our business everywhere else.
Yep, that's true. That's a really good point. The other thing too is like, you with Heat and Dynasty being in our bracket, we were kind of in the same situation with X Factor and Dynasty at the last event. You kind of get this rare opportunity where you could knock out a great team before Sunday, which is cool. It's exciting.
Oh yeah, and I mean, it's gonna be, you definitely have your work cut out for you. Like even Notorious had three. I think they had 3 games go to overtime in the first event.
Right, they're right there, man. Like they're a good team.
For sure. Yeah, and I'm excited to see like the work that they've been putting in and how that's going to pay off for what is like, it could not be closer to a home field advantage for Notorious. I mean, it's probably like a 20-minute drive, if that, between Outlaw, Paintball Park, their home field, and where the event's going to be in Round Rock. Like, it might as well be at Outlaw, honestly, for them. It's as close of a home field as you're going to get.
Sweet. It's even better.
For sure. So, this next question, Ben, is something that I ask everybody that comes on the show. And it helps me like kind of do research as to who else I need to get on the show. Also gives you a chance to give some recognition and shout outs out there. So this question is brought to us by Get That Shot. Message GetDat_shot on Facebook or Instagram for media coverage at Bunkerfest or NXL, especially if you're going to need NXL coverage for this upcoming one, because he's going to be there. He'll be at the full series for Bunkerfest. He'll be at the full series for NXL. So, Ben, are there any Texas-based teams, players, brands, projects, anything that has caught your attention lately? So who do you think in Texas paintball deserves more recognition for what they're doing?
I feel like Paintball Fit's doing a lot of really good stuff. Recently they brought up like 2 players from like lower divisional, right? Caleb Baisley and Jacob Johnson, aka
Yeah, they brought the Amish boy.
Yeah. No, both are great dudes, and I'm stoked for them to have already got their first semi-pro win. I feel like these are some guys who deserve recognition. I say Paintball Fit though because they gave these guys the shot and it worked out, right? So I think that's really cool. The Mac X Ball tournaments are freaking so sweet, so much fun. That's another thing that's like really cool and like deserves some recognition because you can play that tournament if you don't even have a team. You can just sign up and they'll draft you onto a team, which is pretty neat. And you get to shoot a mechanical gun on an X-ball field, which is sweet. It's really fun. And then, man, who are some other people? For a little bit, I think he's still doing this, but Mark Johnson started a paintball scholarship, so this could be good for any I don't know, students listening. but it's called I Am Paintball, and it's like a non for profit. And what I remember it being was like you write an essay or something, and then you could like win this scholarship. But that's pretty cool. I just felt like that was something that like deserves recognition because that's like uh, I don't know, kind of like paying it forward to like the next generation. I think that's like pretty sweet that he like did that. I really hope that he's still doing that. I think that's sick. Um,
Interesting. Yeah, I just looked that up.
yeah,
I mean,
that's kind of off the top of my head. Like what
yeah, that I've never heard of that scholarship before. That's something really cool. I didn't realize it's something that he did. I hope that
yeah,
it's here for this year as well.
I am paintball.
Yeah, I see the posting for last spring. Hopefully he's doing it again this year. That's really cool.
We'll see. I'm gonna practice those guys before Dallas, or I mean before Round Rock. So I'll ask him.
For sure. All right. So let's get to our questions in the chat here before we close up. So
Yeah, absolutely. Any questions, guys?
oh yeah, we got a few. Let's see. From Chris Isaacs. Being that you have played for so many divisional and pro teams over the recent years of today's game, what advice would you give to players when they are joining a new organization or team?
Don't say too much. Listen and understand the way that the organization works. Be a good teammate, right? If you have an opportunity to like kind of lend a hand, do it. If you can grab a couple extra gear bags, do it. Don't say too much. Just like in time, obviously, as the team like warms up to you, like it's cool, but like just don't be too opinionated. Keep your mouth shut. Just go with the flow. That's my advice.
Shout out the one person who did exactly that, and they got a lot of like mentions on how great of a teammate they were, was actually a guest that I had earlier on in the show, like probably 30 episodes ago or something like that. His name is Christian Woodmansee.
Christian,
yeah, he briefly
That's
played.
a badass little dude. I love that guy.
Yeah, briefly played with Diesel, I think, or was on the roster, right, for an event or two.
AC Dallas, yeah.
Bracy Dallas, that's right. During when the fit guys were on that, yeah, he was, talking to the other fit guys, and especially the Lucas. They all loved having him on the roster. You thought it was an excellent teammate. So shout out Christian. Hope you're doing well up in the Northeast. So another question
with NRG now and stuff.
Yeah, he's been on Energy for I think at least a full season. Maybe he's going on his second or third season now with them.
I think you're right. Yeah.
So next question is from Chris Harrison. He says, Ben, I know you coach a D4 team. Do you like playing more or coaching more?
Playing, for sure. Coaching has value because, like, I feel like when you teach things, you learn them better, right? It also, like, kind of makes you take concepts that are sometimes complex and really simplify it, which is an important practice, I feel.
For sure. Being able to, and I mean, it's just another form of communication, right? Like the Titans have a huge program. We've got players from D3 down to like beginner, and being able to take an idea, isolate it into its base form, whether that's like base movement mechanics or simple ideas like if this then that, and just eliminating all the fluff, it just makes you like much more efficient. And honestly, those newer guys can also teach you things in a way that you maybe never thought to think of it.
Oh yeah, for sure. I've gained a lot of value just like, talking, like coaching these guys and observing them, but also made some great friends. So very grateful for that.
This next thing from Alex says, just want to share how awesome and genuine Ben is. Been super encouraging in my weight loss health journey. He gave me a hug not so long ago and lost his mind that his arms went all the way around me. And he told me that if I keep losing weight and fit in a 2XL, he'd give me one of his jerseys. So still grinding for that.
Yep. Still on. I'm just waiting, dude.
He'll get there. Yeah,
Yep.
we took a photo at Bunkerfest, and he was flexing a little bit. He was showing off his progress.
Oh yeah, dude. He's busting his ass in those fucking boxing classes. So he's working hard.
Oh yeah, can't wait to see it. All right, and then just one more shout out from Chris Harrison. He says shout out to Ben for what he does for the youth kids.
Yeah, thanks. Try and help out and be a good guy.
All right. So Ben, lastly, brought to us by Compete from Jell Stewart. Message them on Facebook or Instagram and mention In the Pits for 10% off of your order of soft goods. So Ben, thank you for your time. Do you have any last shout outs or things you'd like to say before we sign off?
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to like some of my sponsors. Obviously Pro DNA, Point at Eclipse. I'd also want to say like shout out to Masons. If you're trying to sell a paintball gun, hit them up. Tell them I sent you. And then, man, yeah. I mean, I think I got my bases covered there.
But the one on your shirt, are you sponsored by them?
Oh yeah, Powerhouse. Yeah, obviously I was reffing the whole event or whole interview. Yeah, I love those guys. They're awesome, man. Always looking after me. Yeah, great customer service. Man, I should have just had like my jersey out or something. I could have read everything off. First Form. Yep. Sorry, I'm not more professional about this, but yeah.
Do you have any more like consumables or dietary things that you're sponsored with?
Oh, yeah. There's this company called Lumi Labs, and they make Delta 9 gummies, and they're really, really good. They're super delicious. You can order them in every state. They're totally legal, but they have like because it's Delta 9 THC, it's like very similar to THC. But my friend started this company, and they're really good, and you should check them out.
Sweet. All right, I'm gonna help you out here. I'm gonna look up Infamous Paintball on Instagram. Make sure we didn't miss anybody as far as the sponsorships go. I think we got just about everybody there. So yeah, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to go follow Ben. That's at Ben_Challenger on Instagram. What other guests would y'all like to see on the show? Leave a comment down below. While you're at it, hit that subscribe button. The show goes live weekly here on youtube.com/@inthepitspaintballpodcast. Recordings are posted to YouTube, Amazon, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify the next day. Shout out to my partners and sponsors, FUAthletics, Get That Shot, Paintball Kumite, Compete, and Hustletown Paintball. We will see you guys next week on Thursday, the 20th, for episode 44, where we will have the TKO, I think it's Valetudo is how you pronounce it, line. They are the youth division winners from the first Bunkerfest event. We're going to have the entire line, all 5 kids and their coach as well. So that's going to be interesting setup to say the least. But we're going to get it done. So we'll see y'all then. Ben, thank you so much for your time.
No problem. Thanks for having me, guys. I hope you enjoyed it.